Welcome to part 2 of our series, Help Bring Back Our Disappearing Birds with these beautiful native shrubs. These shrubs that we're going to go over this evening are more than just beautiful additions to your landscape. They're life-saving resources for our disappearing bird populations. It's estimated that we've lost nearly 3 billion birds over the past 3 decades due to habitat destruction and pesticide use. But there's good news, and by planting native shrubs, we can help reverse this devastating trend. So today we're going to highlight 8 incredible native shrubs that provide food, shelter, and nesting sites for a wide range of birds. And these plants play a vital role in supporting our bird populations throughout the year, from attracting insects in the spring to providing fruit and seeds in fall and winter. So in part 2, we're going to go over Shrubby St. John's Wort, Common Ninebark, Chokecherry, Meadow Rose, Blackhaw Viburnum, American Elderberry, Nannyberry, and Staghorn Sumac.
And for those of you who weren't at part 1, you may want to check out part 1 again of this 2-part series. In part 1, we discussed black chokeberry, buttonbush, Allegheny serviceberry, pagoda dogwood, red osier dogwood, American hazelnut, bush honeysuckle, and American witch hazel. All of these shrubs are really going to help our declining birds, and our wonderful birds are just so important for us. They're critical to our very survival. They keep destructive agricultural and forest insects in check. Birds help to pollinate flowering plants across the globe. Birds supply waste removal services that prevent disease. Birds spread seed and bring back plants back to destroyed ecosystems, and birds help sustain forests, marshes, grasslands, and prairies. And by doing all this, they help store carbon and keep our climate stable. So when we help our birds by planting some of these wonderful shrubs, we are also helping ourselves.
The native shrubs and small trees in our understory provide everything that our birds need. And here's a picture of the beautiful chokecherry that we're going to go over. So these native shrubs are the host plants for many species of butterfly and moth caterpillars, into the hundreds, some of them. Those caterpillars are the most important food source for our baby birds. And in addition to this, these native shrubs also provide seeds, berries, and nuts that provide superior nutrition for our adult birds. They also provide great cover and protection, and their structure provides some of the best nesting sites for our birds.
So the first one we're going to talk about tonight is Shrubby St. John's Wort. And one of the amazing things about this shrub is how small it is. So if you have a small landscape or just a little bit of room on your landscape where you're looking for something bright and cheerful, this would be a great choice for you. Shrubby St. John's Wort grows to be 4 feet tall and wide. It likes full to part sun, medium to moist soil. And it's very easy to keep this prune to a nice, small, rounded shape. Of course, loved by pollinators, just like the little bumblebee that you see in the bottom left of the screen. The seeds provide great winter bird food. So this is a wonderful little nature's bird feeder that you would have on your property. It's a very adaptable and hardy shrub, blooms June, July, August, and is hardy in zones 3 to 8. It's best to prune this early in the spring as it grows on new wood and blooms on new wood. It's a larval host plant for the gray hair streak and more than 20 other species of butterflies and moths. And it is also fairly deer and rabbit resistant, so a good choice if you have a lot of wildlife in your area. Shrubby St. John's Wort, as you can see, is native to the eastern and central U.S., and it is, as we mentioned, a host plant for the gray hair-streaked butterfly and that beautiful wavy-lined emerald moth, that gorgeous green moth in the bottom right. And it provides cover and nesting opportunities for small birds, some of our wonderful birds like song sparrows and northern cardinals. They love this shrub, both the seeds and the cover.
I can't wait to try planting some of that shrubby St. John's wort this coming season.
I
Just
know.
it's great. It's drought tolerant and it can thrive in dry and rocky soils. So I think it's going to be a really great one to try.
And it's
Uh,
so, and because of the size, it can go anywhere.
Anywhere. You can use it as a ground cover pretty much. It's so
You're
short.
right. You're right.
So this next one is a little bit on the bigger side, common ninebark, and it grows up to 5 to 10 feet tall. And it's called common ninebark because it's known for its attractive peeling bark. And it has these gorgeous little clusters of white flowers in the spring that attract loads of insects and pollinators, which is why a lot of these birds just love coming to the ninebark to get those insects. The seed capsules will remain on the plant into the winter, offering food for our birds throughout the lean months. And it supports seed-eating birds, insect-eating birds, and it also provides shelter for song sparrows and thrashers. So this one likes full sun to part shade. It's not super picky. Dry to moist soil. Again, how easy is that? Hardy in zones 2 to 8. And again, we're going to see those blooms from May to June. Extremely adaptable and easy to grow, and it also takes well to pruning. It's loved by many native pollinators, especially our mining bees, and is a great choice to increase biodiversity in your landscape. So again, the seeds are loved by the birds. It's also got great all-season interest, and it's a larval host plant. We'd say this is not for the small landscape. It's more, would you say it's like a hedgerow kind of
Yeah, I mean,
shrub?
it could be a great specimen plant, and you can definitely keep it trimmed. I mean, I keep mine trimmed to be about 5 by 5. So it can be kept trimmed, but it would be great. It's a very fast growing shrub. So if you do want to create a hedgerow along, say one side of your property or to create privacy, this would be a wonderful shrub to use, and it would form it very fast. So it's a robust grower. That's why we say not good for small, really small landscapes, but it does take very well to pruning. And I guarantee you, this is one, if you feel like you don't have a green thumb and you struggle with planting and getting your plants to do well, this one, it is just a champ. This one is just so hardy.
And I just want to point out the structure of the leaves here. Sometimes it's hard to tell a viburnum apart from a ninebark from, all these other native shrubs, but that shape of that leaf is pretty easy to identify. And Kathy even helped me identify a cultivar that was planted on my property before I had my house. So, be on the lookout for cultivars of this plant, but we want to try and plant the straight species.
So you will find this a lot. There is a very popular cultivar of this plant that you will find in a lot of your mainstream nurseries, but it has red foliage. And the jury is still out as to what cultivars are good and what cultivars are not so good. Maybe a cultivar where it's cultivated to be smaller, or it's cultivated for various less, more disease, pest resistant or something, but ones that mess with the colors seem to really not be as effective. That's what research is showing. The color and form of the flowers, for sure, the pollinators just don't use them as readily or find them as readily. But there is also research that there is more of a certain chemical, for lack of a better word, in leaves that are red colored that can actually be toxic to some of the species that are using this as a host plant. So really, I mean, I know the red foliage is enticing in the landscape, but it's much better for birds and certainly much better for our pollinators to stick with the straight species green variety.
And we can take a look at how it's supporting all of this biodiversity. So, common ninebark is known to host numerous moths. And I was so excited because this large maple spanworm, this is a picture that I took this past summer down below. It was on an arbor vitae. and I saw something and I thought that looks like a leaf, but it's actually this moth, the large maple spanworm, and I was
It
just so
almost looks
excited.
like it's made out of wood. The
It
one
does.
that's probably, yeah, doesn't
I
it?
it looked amazing. It looked exactly like a leaf, and it was just hiding out in the arbor vitae like that. It was really incredible to see, and I was so excited to catch it on my camera.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
So yeah, that was pretty exciting. And then it's also the host plant for the glorious Hasbrosidine moth. I'm not saying these correctly. Bluish spring moth and the hitched arches moth. And they're all just so unique. And seeing these camouflage tactics that they have, all of these features have been developed for a specific reason. As we get into some of our other moths this evening, we'll see that some even have things that look like eyes on them.
Because they're out at night and we don't pay too much attention, we're so unaware of the beauty of many of our moths.
Absolutely incredible. And here's our native range map. So a good chunk of the country, this is a native shrub. So it's native to the eastern and most of the central U.S. Those areas that are yellow means that the shrub is in steep decline. So we want to really try to bring this back and plant it as much as possible. And I just love this picture showing the flowers cascading down, and then there's some little columbine planted below it. What a charming combination. And if you could just picture this in your garden, what a stunning combination that would be.
It is beautiful and it has almost an old-fashioned look, if that makes sense. And when it is blooming in the spring, it is there's a cloud of pollinators around it. It's like a cloud.
Absolutely beautiful.
Okay, chokecherry. So we need to talk about this one because what an amazing plant. And I just wish I could find a place where I have room to put this in. I almost feel like we need to bow to this plant. It's such an ecosystem powerhouse. Our number one, this is a keystone plant. And a keystone plant is one that has the most beneficial effect on our ecosystem, that without our keystone plants, the ecosystem starts to fall apart. Our number one family of keystone plants are our oaks. Quercus is the Latin name. Number two is Prunus, our native plums. And this is one of them. This is our chokecherry. It's a highly adaptable large native shrub, but it is a large native shrub. That's why I don't haven't found a place for one yet, but maybe I'm gonna have to take some of my neighbor's land or something. I don't know. But it grows 12 to 30 feet tall. It gets these gorgeous cylindrical white flowers in April. People love those butterfly bushes that are actually considered to be possibly even harmful to the monarch butterfly and butterflies in general. But if you like that elongated look of the flowers of a butterfly bush, this has it and so much more benefit. Blooms April, May, June in full sun to part shade, dry to moist soil, so a very adaptable plant, hardy in zones 2 to 7, and look at the beautiful red berries that form that are absolutely loved by birds. Now, as I said, it's a keystone species, but look at this. This is the host plant for 416 species of butterflies and moths. That is just crazy. This plant, when it's on your property, is feeding so many and serving so many. The word powerhouse isn't a strong enough word for this shrub. So if you have room to get one of these shrubs on your property, which we'll find a place for you, Lexi.
Oh yeah, this is on my list now. I just saw that number 416. I thought, wow, okay, this is the one to go for.
So here are just, we can't begin to talk about all of the butterflies and moths that this one is the host plant for, because we'd be here all night if we went over 416. But here's just a taste of some of the ones. The largest moth we have, Cecropia moth. Look at that thing on the hand. That is just stunning. I would love to see that sometime. I did see once in person the amazing Luna moth, but I would love to see this one. The low moth. How
Or is
beautiful.
it Io?
Is it
Io?
Io? It's
I think it might
Io.
be Io.
Io moth. Oh my goodness. I mean, the Polyphemus moth, just beautiful coloring on these guys. Coral hair streak butterfly, the red spotted purple moth, and the eastern tiger swallowtail. And really, I mean, when you think that moths are boring, I mean, truly moths are the at the foundation of our ecosystem. There's so many more. So they really contribute much more than our butterflies do. There's just not near as many butterflies. But we like our butterflies because we see them and they're out during the day and they're beautiful. But these moths are more colorful than the butterflies on this page. They're just fantastic.
And And here's some great examples of those wings with the eye patterns on there meant to ward off the predators and scare them. It's just how clever is nature to figure that out. And they're supposed to look like maybe the eyes of an owl or a different, a large bird that would scare something off.
Amazing. Nature is amazing. And some of the birds that love to eat the berries, or most birds are going to love to eat all the caterpillars that are on the chokecherry. But some of the birds that also like the berries as well are the eastern bluebird, all of our thrushes, of course, our winter friend, the northern cardinal, the gray catbird, our orioles, our American robin, and our cedar waxwing, all birds that love those berries. And our chokecherry is native to most of the US. Look at that, just in the far southeast, but this is native through most of the country and just an amazing shrub to get in your landscape. If you can fit none other, if you're just going to plant one thing, plant this one because you are going to get the most bang for your buck with this one.
Next, we have Meadow Rose or Rosa blanda, and this is our native rose, and it features these delicate pink flowers in the summer, and then also produces the red rose hips that persist into the winter. It's a nearly thornless native rose, and it grows about 3 to 5 feet tall. It'll do well in fold apart sun, dry to medium soil, and you have these gorgeous showy pink fragrant flowers in June and July. And the pollinators just love it because they've got a big landing pad in the middle there to land on. The highly nutritious berry-like rosehip fruit attracts many birds, and it's extremely high in vitamin C and other nutrients. It's loved by pollinators. It's hardy in zones 3 to 7 and is also a host plant for 135 species of butterflies and moths. And I just think, you can buy a rose bush at Costco for $35, but it's not going to support all of these amazing species of butterflies and moths. We really need these native species of roses to support our ecosystem. And here's an example of what those rose hips look like. They also make a delicious addition to your tea. And the wild roses produce these bright red rose hips late summer and fall. And the hips are packed with the nutrients and persist in the winter. And they provide an essential food source for our birds, especially during the colder months. So again, our berry-loving, fruit-loving little birds, the eastern bluebird, thrushes, sparrows, northern cardinal, cedar waxwing, and finches will love to feast on the wild rose. And here you can see it is native to the upper eastern US and the upper Midwest. It doesn't like to seem to go further south than that, but it is also the host plant for some very unique moths, the apple sphinx moth, the blinded sphinx moth, and again, here is that Io moth with the really interesting colorings.
I'd love to see one of them.
Yeah, just have to be out at night.
So the next shrub we're going to talk about is the American elderberry. Sambucus canadensis. This is a stunning shrub, and just it has a very soft, flowy growth habit, and both for the flowers and the lacy looking flowers and the berries, everything is just kind of flowy and soft on this. So just a beautiful structure. Grows in full to part sun, medium to moist soil, and blooms in May and June. This is a very hardy shrub that can withstand harsh conditions such as pollution, salt, standing water, can tolerate it. You can plant this in a very wet site and it can even tolerate having its feet wet sometimes. And it's also a very fast growing shrub. So if you're impatient and you want to plant something to create a privacy screen or so, this isn't just like the common ninebark. This is a species that's going to grow pretty fast for you. It is a great shrub for erosion control on wet sites because it can tolerate that wet area and it filters the pollutants out of the groundwater. As we said, it makes a great privacy screen and it's hardy in zones 3 to 9. The berries are loved by our wildlife and they're also loved by people. It's very common to make like elderberry jam, and I think there's an elderberry wine, but please don't eat them raw. This is our service berries and some of our other, you can just pick them off and eat them. This is not one of them that you can. You would get very sick. Humans need to cook these berries in order to eat them. But our birds don't. And some of the species that love these berries would be, again, our great catbird, our thrushes, our orioles, all these fruit-loving birds. Here on the left, you can see the lacy look to those flowers. And even like to the right, with this female redstart on it eating, look at the cascading, drooping branches just loaded with heavy berries, just so pretty and such a soft, flowy shrub. Provides nesting material for native bees. The flowers are a favorite nectar source for pollinators, and it's a great bird nesting site. The structure of it makes it very conducive to nest building. It's a very long-lived shrub, and it's great for carbon-storing hedgerows. So a plant that can really service a lot of areas in your landscape, whether it be creating a hedge or a focal point or something that you need for a wet area or someplace where you want something that grows fast. This could be a very useful shrub in your landscape. You can see here on the left that it is native to the eastern and central US. And it too is a host plant for many butterfly and moth caterpillars, including that huge Cecropia moth, which is, as we said earlier, the largest species of moth in North America. And there's its gorgeous, silly looking caterpillar below there.
Even the caterpillar has so many different colors, so red and
Yeah.
yellow and blue.
Being that that's the biggest moth, I wonder how big that caterpillar is, because we're used to
Yeah.
looking at like the size of a monarch caterpillar. I wonder if the caterpillar is much bigger, because the body of this moth may not be that much bigger than the body of some other species, but it's the wings that are so big.
Love to see one of these in person for
I
sure.
would too. I would too.
Okay, now we're going to move on to some viburnums. And the viburnums can be a little bit difficult to tell apart because a lot of them have this white flower that can look pretty similar. So the first one we're going to go over is Viburnum prunifolium. So this is Blackhaw Viburnum. And it's a large shrub that could be planted alone or grouped to form a hedge. And this one's going to be pretty tall. It grows 12 to 15 feet. It likes full sun to part shade, and it has these beautiful white fragrant flowers that bloom in April, May, and June. And of course, this is going to attract a multitude of pollinators. It does like medium to moist soil. And once those flowers turn into berries, here come the birds. So it has these blue blackberries, And it is also hardy in zones 3 to 9 and is a host plant for 100 species of butterflies and moths. So the fruit is also rich in fats, which is kind of interesting, but it makes it an energy-packed food source. And here you can see a more mature version of Blackhaw Viburnum and just how tall it gets, and supporting, not only the fruit-eating birds, but also the insect-loving birds. So here are some examples with the chickadees, warblers, and wrens. They're all going to be attracted to Blackhaw Viburnum to get to the insects.
And I have heard by a number of people that this is a large shrub that can take very well to pruning it up to form a small tree out of it, which looks kind of like what's happening here a bit.
Definitely, and that would be a great privacy hedge. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and here we can see our native range. So the eastern and the lower central US, and it's host to some very interesting moths. And it sounds like something out of the Marvel characters, but the green Marvel moth and the pink prominent moth. Again, look at these spectacular colors and patterns that are supported by the viburnum.
Okay, Nannyberry, which is another one of our awesome viburnums, a few different viburnum species that are out there servicing our ecosystem. This one is a large, upright, and spreading shrub. So it is large. It grows 15 to 20 feet tall, and it makes a great tall privacy screen. So if you really want to like block out the view behind you or to the side of you, this would be a great one to grow up and really block your view both from, inside the main floor of your house and when you're outside. It can be maintained as a small tree by pruning, just like the Blackhaw that we just talked about. Likes full to part sun and medium to moist soil. Pollinators flock to the white flowers, and it's hardy in zones 2 to 8. And then come the dark blueberries that the birds just love. It's one of the top wildlife plants for native birds. Again, it's because these viburnums, the protein dense berries of our viburnums are just extremely nutritious and valuable for our birds, especially getting them ready for migration and building up their resources for migration. So great plant. Host plant for more than 100 species of butterfly and moth caterpillars. So it's out there feeding our baby birds, those caterpillars. And just some of the birds that are going to love these berries are your American robins, your cedar waxwings, your gray catbird, and I know that I have a large one, a large viburnum, actually an arrowwood viburnum in my backyard. But I know that every year the thrushes come while migrating and just devour all those seeds on it. So I can say firsthand that the thrushes love viburnum berries too, because I've seen them, the little piglets. So our nannyberry is native to the upper US, and it is a host plant for, as we said, at least 100 species, but a few of them are the hummingbird clearwing moth, which is just so cool if you've ever seen one. It is a moth that flies kind of like a hummingbird, but it's out during the day. So it's a really unique critter. It also is a host plant for the green marvel moth, which we talked about earlier, and that cute little pink prominent moth.
And finally, we have Staghorn Sumac. I can't believe we got through 8 shrubs already, Kathy.
Wow, we're speeding up on this. What's
Yeah,
going on?
we're going really fast.
Did we have a bunch of caffeine right before we came on?
We must have. I really want to plant this shrub. I am actually just really enamored with it. So
It has
Staghorn Sumac,
doesn't it have kind of a prehistoric look?
it does, and you can see why it's called staghorn. Like the pointed leaves really do remind you of a stag's horn. And then these just incredible clusters of flowers that turn into fruits. Absolutely stunning. And then we're going to see some pictures too of how it looks in the fall. It's just this fantastic red color. So this again is a native large shrub or small tree. This one's going to get pretty tall, so it grows to 25 feet tall, and it does form colonies too. So it suckers and would form the colonies. It likes sun to shade. So again, not super picky, but does prefer drier soil conditions. So again, like we said, it has this very interesting structure and it produces these large velvety red fruit clusters that persist through the winter and offers food when there's not much other food. So it's going to support lots of different birds. It's also the host plant for more than 50 species of butterflies and moths, and this is hardy in zones 3 to 8. And here's a close-up of these fruits, and they're called drupes, and they're rich in carbohydrates, and again, persist through the fall and winter, and it provides an important food source for our migratory birds and the colder buds. You'll see these when all of the leaves have been have fallen off of the tree or shrub, you'll still see the berries. And so the American robin, again, the thrushes, our northern cardinal, cedar waxwings, they all love the fruits of this, and the ruffled grouse, which is a ground feeder, would also love these fruits. So it's really a critical food source and one that if you have room for something of this size and stature, what a great addition to the landscape. And we'll see another picture, I believe, of
I just
just
had to
how it
point
looks.
out the ruffled goose. I'm looking at the hairdo on that guy.
It's very cute. So look at that beautiful shrub in the fall. I mean, that color is just absolutely stunning. And when the leaves have turned red, and then there's also the reds of the drupes of the fruits, what a great combination. This is native to a lot of the U.S., the eastern and parts of the central U.S. And the fruits were actually extremely important to the people who colonized the country because they were so high in vitamin C that it helped them ward off diseases that they weren't used to. So it really helped with scurvy and things that the colonial Americans weren't used to. So interesting, facts about this tree. And then also sumac is used as a spice. So it's dried and it's a great flavor in a lot of dishes. So it's also a natural dye, which is just kind of incredible. All of these uses for the Staghorn sumac fruit. And also, it's been made into something called sumac lemonade or teas for centuries. So a lot of history with this plant, and people really knew how to take advantage of it and use it for all of its different properties.
I'm just looking at it, like all of these plants, all of these native plants and shrubs, they are our history. They are the history of this country. But this really so much history and so much uses over the centuries. And yet
It's
you don't see it that much. But it's such an amazing, you know, asset to so many people over the centuries.
Yeah, now we need to bring it back for our birds because we need the birds. The birds need this native tree or shrub, and we need to support our ecosystem.
And one more tonight, we have our Winterberry, which that just kind of speaks for itself. What a beautiful shrub this is. Many people will recognize this. This is our Christmas shrub. This is our native holly. And you can actually go to, if you go to a craft store or go to a garden center and you buy those branches with red berries on them to make up your holiday containers for your front porch or what have you, those are coming off of Winterberry. And this is just an amazing shrub. It does not, it loses its leaves, so it is our native holly, but it does lose its leaves in the winter, but keeps these amazing berries. Grows 8 to 10 feet tall, full sun to part shade, moist to wet soil. It blooms in June and July and is loved by many pollinators. And I will attest to this. I have one that is right near my patio. And when this is flowering, It is, like I said with one earlier, I think it was the ninebark. It's like there's a cloud of pollinators around this one. Little teeny tiny bees, all sizes of bees, just amazing, like a cloud. The birds also enjoy the beautiful berries. Most of my berries are already gone off of this because, from the birds. Again, those little piglets. It takes very well to pruning, which I can attest to. Mine is probably about 7 feet tall, and I pretty much keep it right around there, and does very well. One male can fertilize up to 10 females if it's within 50 feet, and so it is. You need two to get the berries. You need a male and a female. And I had the female for a long time. And as I said, she's about 7 feet tall, and I keep her at that. I wasn't sure if it was a male or female. I knew it didn't get berries, but you actually can tell what it is when it's in flower. If there's it's the shape of the flower will tell you, and you can look it up online as well. The shape of the flower will tell you whether it's a male or female. And I found out a couple years, 2, 3 years ago, that it was a female. So I found a place on my property. I had cleared out a few other things and was converting more and more to native. So I found a place to add a male, and it was a little male. He was a little guy. He was only like 1.5 feet tall. But then that following year, boom, all the berries came. So it just worked overnight. So it was wonderful, but you do need to have a male and a female if you want those beautiful berries. We say here not for the small landscape because it does get 8 to 10 feet tall, but my experience with this shrub is it's very easy to keep more contained. It has as we said, very attractive fruit, and it does like wet, so it's very tolerant of wet conditions. Even some standing water, it would be fine. Prized for its lovely holiday berries, and it's hardy in zones 3 to 9. Here are some of the moths that feed off whose caterpillars feed off of our winterberry. We have the Harris 3-spot moth and the Henry's elfin butterfly. So it is the host plant for 34 species of butterflies and moths. Winterberry is native to the eastern US and the Midwest. And is that not gorgeous? Does that not just that's like a Christmas card right there, a winterberry with a cardinal on it. I mean, that just says Christmas all over it.
All right, and that brings us to the end of part 2 of this presentation. We hope you enjoyed learning about all these different native shrubs and hope that you can find somewhere on your landscape to plant 1, 2, or all 8 of them. I think we actually went over and we got 9 in there somehow
We might
today.
have had it, we might have shoved a 9 in there.
I think we did. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.